Hi, welcome again to Unlimited Treasure YouTube channel. Please do subscribe and share with others. You will never know who will be helped by what. Thank you very much. Please do subscribe because as I add more and more of these, then you will get to be notified that I have added more. All right. So please subscribe, and if you know other people who may be needing this, to share with them. The more we share, the better we become as a bigger group, right? So we have already covered two sessions. This is the third session that we're doing. Um, and again, it's really to assist everyone during this lockdown period. I'm also a part-time lecturer, and I know that I have students who are suffering, who would be used to us meeting on almost every weekend to assist them with knowledge and with their assignments and exams. So whether you are part of my students or not, if it helps you, please let it. All right. We have already done two sessions, which we can find in the channel Unlimited Treasure. Right. So do check them there. But what we've already covered so far is the general concepts, the types of computers, the main parts of a computer, what to bear in mind when studying a computer, hardware and software, input and output devices, accessibility. Then we did storage, then memory, which is RAM and ROM, software, which is operating system, and application system. All right. So if you have interest in any of those or you'd like to understand them better, um, please do go to the previous recordings in Unlimited Treasure YouTube channel and listen, like, comment, ask question, and above all, subscribe, okay, and share with others who may benefit from that. Cool. We're gonna talk to LAN, when, and wireless LAN. So again, I think one of the things I keep emphasizing is when they say define LAN, when, and WLAN, you don't say LAN is local area network. You are just explaining what it stands for. It is absolutely important for every student to know that definitions play a critical role in a journey of an academic. So always know how to define it and get into it. Harvard referencing, check your booklet. There's no institution that doesn't give a guide on Harvard referencing. And above all, always just flow, introduction, body, and conclusion without actually saying those words is very important for us to see how you're flowing. And the start of every flow is a definition, right? So let's talk to LAN, which is local area network, wide area network, and wireless local area network. For people who are working, I'll try and just give an example from what happens when we get to work, right? So basically, a network is two or more computers connected together. You could have a home network whereby, if it was back in the days where you still have a box, you can use that box for everyone and just access control who sees what. More of what you are seeing in a startup of network here. I mean, if money is an issue, you don't need to be having so many boxes. You don't need, even in these days of a laptop, you really don't need to be buying 5 laptops for 5 people in the house. You could buy one powerful laptop and then buy a couple of screens for people, which becomes better for your cost. It's a network. Then you just network this 5 screens or even just 2 screens, because unless if you all need to be using them at the same time. But I think the cost of a few screens plus one laptop is already a better price compared to going to buy 5 laptops. And also, if there's something wrong, you just correct one place, right? That's more like what we use at work, which is called a server, right? Because it's basically that's why most of us who are working, you are connected to some network together, all of you, whether it's 5 employees or 1,000 employees. So you can do it in your house. That's that's what it is. So now when you get to work, some of you, when you get to work, you probably have that cable that is next to some phone, and then there's a cable that goes to the phone, and then there's that cable that you can plug into a laptop. That is a demonstration that you are in a local area network, right? So it's a network of computers in a building or a limited area, right? So that is why that LAN would be for your specific office or specific company, right? So you should be having a view of that, right? So that's when you are using the LAN, and then I and then there is what we call a wireless LAN, right? So that now when we're talking about LAN here and then wireless LAN here, all right? So this is the same thing, but what normally happens is that some companies then advance themselves. Instead of getting to work and plugging that cord, you can still achieve the same, but you are wirelessly connected. This is not Wi-Fi, it's wireless LAN. Right? If you happen to have a question that wants you to give the example of LAN and wireless LAN, please don't just say that. Let's take someone who works at the airport. Don't just say LAN, or someone who doesn't work at the airport. Don't just say airport, sorry, right? Because when you are working at the airport as an employee, then you need to explain that I work in an airport as an employee, and we have a local area network, and because I get to work and I plug things this way. But someone could be at the airport, definitely not now, guys, in this very trying times. Let's stay at home. But for someone who is not working at the airport, who could be having a meeting there, or yeah, went to meet someone for whatever reason you're at the airport, then you are able to connect to a Wi-Fi. That's not what we're talking about here. That's just something totally different. The way these networks are set up is totally different. Um, so let's not confuse that. A wireless LAN is not Wi-Fi, right? So just know that Wi-Fi is something totally different. You don't have to be working in that company to access it. All right, cool. And so let's now go to our area network. A network of computers connected over longer distances, and this could be you are working for an office for a company that has offices across different provinces or cities. When you get into the other office and you are able to just either plug that cord and connect and things are normal as though you're in a normal office, or maybe if it's wireless LAN, you just connect and you are able to move on without calling IT, calling anyone, then your wide area network is well set up. You understand? Sometimes what happens with this company is that they have many offices, but sometimes when you get to the other office, your experience is not the same. So let's talk to them about setting up a proper one. But that example of that company is a wide area network. Of course, there's other networks, guys. Read more about them, like a MAN, like a PAN, MAN, like a PAN, and many others. So check on them. The more you get used to reading, the better. All right. Then, okay, let me just cover this quickly in passing. You know, we come from a place when we used to use things like ISD and ADSL. It's just for a bit of a history, really. So there were those days when you needed to have a phone line in your house, even if the phone is not there. If you needed internet connection, you needed to have a phone line. And then remember when you needed to either make a phone call or use your internet. So if you had a phone, you couldn't make a phone call and at the same time be on the internet. That was ISDN. Many years ago, very slow speed, but it served the purpose back then, guys. And then we moved to ADSL. The transfer rate became a bit quicker, but at least, you could be on the internet and say to someone, hey, can you see this fact? With ISDN, you couldn't do that. So it was better in that way. And then, of course, and then from this ADSL to DSL, and then we have wireless and a lot of these other things. So basically, we have become better, and now we're talking fiber, whereby they can just come and trench in your house or in your complex or estate, and you just take it from there and you decide on your speed. 10 meg is good, guys. If you have a 10 meg, is good. If you want to push it to 20, is good. But don't let them charge you 30 or 40 and you don't even know what that means. It's all right. Just tell them 10 meg and you should be able to pay around 700, 800 right now. It's still less than 1,000. If you pay more than 1,000 for your fiber, maybe call your service provider and talk to them about it. Okay, so that is it. When you're talking, let me just briefly talk to satellite internet because this is really not DSTV or anything like that. This is that kind of connection which will be used if any other option is not available. It's very expensive, very expensive, very expensive. So it's mostly in very remote areas where you can have Wi-Fi or broadband or fiber. You just can't. Um, like in ships, like in rural areas where maybe they don't have infrastructure, then government may decide to have a satellite for the clinic or for that school, but it's really not the first option, right? Yeah. And then let's talk about internet. You guys know what internet is. So internet, I think this becomes important because we're going to be talking about intranet and extranet. Understand the difference. Internet is a global network of interconnected networks. It's used for things like communication, shopping, banking, education. You use internet every day. When you go to Google and start searching, you are using the internet. You don't have to be logged in any way. So you're just using the internet, right? And it's provided through an ISP, right? So for you to be able to go to Google and Google, it means there is an ISP. It's either you have a dongle or you have a SIM card for data. You can't just access it. So that's how you access the internet, through some sort of ISP, whether you got it from Vodacom, MTN, or any service provider out there. Internet service provider, right? So that's the internet. So then we're gonna go into intranet and extranet. Remember I said with internet we can browse as much as we want. We don't even have to log in. We just search for information and that is it. So when you're talking intranet and extranet, most of you have this at work. Intranet is like a private network of an organization. So it's only accessible to the people to you and your colleagues, the organization people only, right? It's not open for anyone, but you have your login and password. So if I visit you at work, even if I look like I'm connected, I'm not really in your intranet. It's specific, it's private. Let's call it private, accessible from within the organization, right? There is another way of accessing your intranet from outside the organization that will speak to VPN, right? Some of you would know what a VPN is, a virtual private network. That's why it's also what private. So it assists also with security. That is why you would note that sometimes if you were to work at, let me not name any restaurant, but say you were having a meeting at a restaurant and you're trying to use their Wi-Fi and you want to access your intranet and then you are unable to connect. But when you use your data that is authorized or your dongle that is normally known, then it goes through. Is because VPN, it's really private, and they also need to check that you are using the right ways of connect. You are not in a place that can put the company at danger. So companies really go through a lot to make sure that information is protected. That is why we have things like internet that you will be able to access for when you are at work, when you're at a within a work network, because they know that they have protected the work network. But then when you are not in the network with this new ways of working, a flexible working environment, you should be able to do work from home if you are allowed to do so. Then you have to use a VPN, which is an extra layer of protection as well. But those things will be checked, but you need to still use proper network. The whatever network we have at home must be good. So if you are accessing it from a non-trusted ISP, it will not be allowed. So basically, that is important to note. Intranet, because in the intranet is private information. It's not information that other people need to know. When you do that session on security, I'll talk more to some of these things on why it is important that you really follow these rules and you don't try and be smart when the organization has guidelines, because sometimes all these uh, fraudsters and all these people who send the spywares and all sorts of threats and to steal information from your company, really all they need is one person who is not following the guidelines properly. And they could get, if your company allows you to log in from anywhere from that restaurant network, which maybe is not strong enough, if they are able to use your network at that point and have access to the organization, that's all they need. They don't need all the 1,000 people in your company. They just need one to have access, right? So it's very important. Let's follow the guidelines. So what is an extranet then? If intranet is for people who are within the organization, then extranet is an intermediate between the intranet and the internet. I think an example that I can give you about extranet, because there's still username and password here. Say for example, who would be responsible for stationery? Maybe that's your HR, because you get it from a certain leg of their side. They can have an extranet for suppliers, for example, so that the suppliers are able to view certain information in order to assist them, right? For example, and I know the example I'm giving may even become a bigger conversation for supply chain management, because as an information only extranet, you can give your supplier information to say, this is how much stationery we have, this is what we do about this, and then their suppliers go in there and they can see that information. But if you enhance your systems for supply chain, then that extranet you could also really be able to have a view of that those suppliers can have a view of a portion of the database relevant to them. If you're thinking of just-in-time delivery for a petrol station, fuel station, um, you don't have to get to a fuel station in this day and age and find out petrol has run out because someone was on leave or someone forgot to send the email. So basically, there can be those just-in-time agreements, and there's a message that goes maybe 5 days to before this, or at a certain when the if the agreement is really that when there's 10,000 liters left, you must deliver, then no one needs to even touch that system. So that's where you use extranet. You can possibly put that information, but if you take it to the next level of supply chain management, you could even have a view of some databases or things that just make business work better. So the suppliers would log in with their username and passwords and have a view of this information. Right. So that's intranet and extranet. And I think having covered these, I really don't want these sessions to be very long. I don't want them to be taking more than 30 minutes. So I think we are at about 20 minutes right now. And I think we'll end it here, having touched on those very key things that we covered: LAN, WAN, and wireless LAN. Take a break, pause it, and ask yourself if you remember what is a local area network, what is a wide area network, what is a wireless local area network, and then really ask yourself if you understand how we are connecting to the internet now versus how we used to connect then from back in the days, right? And then the internet, what we use it for, then what is the difference between the internet, the intranet, and the extranet, right? So that's where we will end it for this session. More to come. Thank you so much. Please do subscribe to Unlimited Treasure. Let's help each other to the top. Share the clip if you find it useful. Share it with others. I'm sure as a student, you know other students who may need the information. Let's share it as much as we can. You are treasured. See you in the next session.